Thank you, everybody, for coming today to hear me. I will try to speak slowly because a lot of words that I'm going to pronounce today are going to be in my language or in Sanskrit, and um, there may be a difficulty in getting it, because of which I have made a glossary of non-English terms. In case you guys want to refer, I'm going to just now post that in the chat. One second. I hope everybody is in, Janine, and I can post it now.
Certainly, go right ahead.
Okay.
We might have some latecomers, but yeah, you're very welcome to post.
Okay. So this is a glossary of the non-English terms that I would be using in the presentation today. And I need to get you one more document, which is actually a transcript of the video that I would be showing of a ritual from my land in south of India, Kerala, which is a PDF document called Bharani. So both of these documents, I hope everybody has got it. It's in the chat box. Um, this would be very helpful if you could download it and keep it with you.
Sunitha, just to say a word for people. So if anyone's not familiar with files in the chat, when you open the chat, just click on each file and it should download it to your computer and then allow you to open it and follow along as you like. Thanks. Right ahead, sorry.
um, right. And I think another thing I wanted to mention before we go um, into the presentation today is that it has three parts to it. And in the middle part is where I'm going to show a video documentation of this festival, which is around 22 minutes of video. Um, I do want to mention right ahead that the ritual will have a lot of blood. And in case it is a trigger, I would want each of you to take care of yourself in ways that are helpful. If you want to close the video and not see the ritual, that is also okay, and just hear my voice. If you want to keep something symbolic in your hand that can ground, um, or have something with you to paint as you hear me, anything that would be of help. Um, this particular ritual comes from a very tantric realm of celebrating Kali, and is a large part of where I come from and where I grew up. So for us, it is not. It's part of how we connect to this energy. And I do understand that for some of you, Kali as a goddess may uh, be something which you would be engaging with as I'm speaking today. So just do take care of yourself in whichever ways you need to. Um, I'm planning to wrap up the presentation 15 minutes ahead of time in case somebody wants to leave comments or say something. You would be welcome to. Um, Also, as I'm playing the video, if you can put it in full screen, it would be a better experience. And if you have earpods, please do use them so that the sound quality is better. I think I've covered most of the things. If I have left, I think I would come in and say it. I'm going to start an intro 2-minute video before I plunge into the presentation. Jeanine, if you could tell me if you can uh, see the video and the sound clearly.
Sure.
Once I, yes, thank you.
शिखरि शिरोमणि तुङ्ग हिमालय शृङ्गनिजालय मध्यगते मधु मधुरे मधु कैतवगन्धिनि कैतववन्दिनि रासरते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकवर्दिनि शैलसुते
You. So today, the presentation that I'm just about to start is more of a story. And it is a story of Kali and also my own personal story weaved into it. If some words you're not really able to hear or understand, that's totally okay. Just sit back and go with the experience that it leaves in your body. Yeah, thank you.
Sunitha, you can go to full screen on your computer and then it will be full screen for everyone, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Is this full screen?
Um,
Are you able to?
yes.
It is, right? Okay. You're able to see it, Janine?
Yes. Yes.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Prakriti or nature The feminine principle in the cosmos is like the dancing goddess. As she dances in her elements or gunas, she seduces the Purusha or spirit, the masculine, in a web of delusion, what we call as Maya. An unending dance begins between them, the Purusha and Prakriti, the masculine and the feminine, of birth, death, rebirth, and renewal. As per the Hindu Vedic scriptures, her dance and its purpose is to finally dance him into boredom. Prakriti dances to help the Purusha understand his true nature, dancing until his desire to watch this beautiful feminine filled with grace reaches a point of satiation. Purusha gets bored with the dance, and Prakriti, recognizing this, gracefully withdraws. This becomes the eternal dance between Purusha and Prakriti, Shiva and Shakti. Now one can look at this construct as to what exists in the cosmos archetypally as a dance of the opposites, of the masculine and the feminine, logos and eros, of the night or ratri and day or ushas, as a dance of the goddess for the god to create consciousness in the world. But I knew another goddess who danced. She danced with rage. She danced to kill. She danced in the graveyard over the dead bodies. She danced for no spectators inside closed temple doors so that no one saw her dance. She danced every night, not as an object to a subject's desire, but for her own delight. She danced with rage and desire, not by weaving the seduction of illusion, but by destroying the delusion there is, the great delusion. She was called Bhadrakali, originating from the root word Ba, meaning delusion, and Dra means the greatest, the dark the one who remained when everything else was gone. Now, there's hardly any written literature about her, Bhadra. Her name was found in a Vedic hymn, the Grihya Sutra, and there are some sparse references in some tantric texts from my land. The difficulty with referencing her, I realized, had to do with the tendency to bunch off all the goddesses. So we have a pantheon of gods and goddesses in our country. So bunching of these goddesses together under the umbrella of the mother goddess, or to make her the warrior goddess. So she had kind of slid into some kind of obscurity or a loss of individual identity to become Bhagavati, as she's referenced in Kerala, the land where I come from, or as Mahakali, as referenced in West Bengal, which is the east of India, the two states which has a goddess culture where the goddess is worshipped. But is she a mother goddess, the benevolent goddess Mahakali, or the warrior goddess Durga, who fights battles and destroys demons and settles back in her innate form? How would it be if she isn't the mother, if she isn't the warrior? Would she go against what's prescribed as Prakriti or nature, against the cosmic feminine principle? This is what the sojourn is all about, that I'm going to take you through. So I encountered her, or rather, she came to me maybe when I was around 5 years old. I was in a stage of a physical assault. Maybe I called out for help. Maybe I don't, or I didn't. No one heard. I don't clearly remember, but what I remember was this energy entering my body. It was a large expanse of an energy. I felt possessed by it, almost as if my claws came out and my fangs, and I went wild. I had no sense of how tiny I was in actual size. Of course, it did its thing. It gave me my nickname Kali, which I assure you is not used with positive association in India in children. Um, I didn't take it too well as I was growing up. I was a child, soon becoming an adult, who would unleash my rage and evoke it in the field. I had a way also of bringing it on. My sword had evolved now from my claws and fangs to my words, and severing I did in plenty. The difficulty was that it didn't fit in with my concept of myself, which was also a typical good girl, a serious student, a dancer who tried very hard to fit in. But at the same time, there seemed enough going around to go and fight about. When I was possessed and when rage came through, I was severed from this person that I thought I was. It felt like a fire would suddenly come and claim me, and I was gone. One whiff of something which felt like a violation for me in the place of this gentle, soft spoken person who came through me was this fierce being on bloodlust, and she could kill. I did varied attempts at fixing this, suppressing it, trying to cut off from this me and multiple other things, but hardly anything was successful. The rage would come through, especially when there was a particular aspect of the masculine that triggered it. Even though I used my logic to explain and justify my rage, that it was against the patriarchy, towards the toxic masculine, something about it felt like a captivity of utter powerlessness. It was swallowing me up. I was burning from the inside, and deep down, something internally was going dead. Now, at this point, I want to talk about what is rage. Are you guys able to see the change in the slides? Janine?
Yes.
Okay. What is rage? Rage is an archetypal possession. So if Kali is an archetype, then rage is the manifestation or expression of that archetype. Because when there's no room for conscious reflection on the symbolic meaning embedded within it, rage cannot become humanized into anger, and hence it becomes a possession. It's also a symptom of an inner split where the suppressed or the repressed part can become a shadow following us. It has a tendency to block an individual's potential. And when a human ego is unable to bear an experience that's larger than it and integrate it, it can also be a complex, holding in its center nucleus, which is charged up with emotional energy, just waiting to explode with a trigger. Now, in the collective, Rage can also be an expression of trauma and hence becomes very important for us to look at. As for Stephen Martin, who did quite a bit of work and wrote a paper on this, rage can take a dichotomous form, almost forming opposing dimensions in our intrapsychic structure or experience. One aspect of this, of rage, is the seething red hot emotionality that pumps blood through us, pushing us ever closer to impulsive and regrettable acting out, like road rage, wars, and the all around violence, the sheer aggression. All of these stem out of this particular archetypal energy. The other aspect and expression of rage is a hardness, a sense of becoming like a stoic, a disturbing stillness of icy emotional withdrawal. It shuts us in, trapping us in the fantasies of revenge and passive aggression. In my opinion, if you look around at what's happening around the world today, or if you just look at the content flooding over social media or the OTT platform, we can touch rage viscerally. As a collective, it seems like we are bleeding. Either that or there's a sense of indifference, having gone cold, unaffected, or maybe even paralyzed. This fast replacement of affect, of feelings, with possessions that are material and dead, creating a certain deadness inside us, like we have turned into stone. The aliveness, the passion seems receding. Now, according to Dr. Ursula Words, the collective rage that's building up is a calling, because it consists within it a very transformative healing energy. Kali carries in her a possibility of embracing the polarities. The polarities being on one end her capacity to destroy evil, being in the liminal space, being protective, and on the other end her bloodlust. And as Jung mentions in the Red Book, unguided by the eye of reason, unmitigated by humanness, the fire becomes a devastating, bloodthirsty Kali. Women who are usually survivors of complex trauma, sexual, physical, or psychological, identify with her image world over as she holds that space for violent rage. As a victim, the image comes into one's being, infusing strength. In Dr. Ursula's words, from the depths of the collective unconscious, this image emerges as a representation of collective rage and rebellion against oppression and has come to the surface crying out for integration, a transformation. Now, at this point, I want to take a moment to differentiate anger and rage. Now, whereas in anger, a catharsis or expression leads to a sense of self feeling strong, a catharsis of rage can perpetuate and bring in more intense feelings of rage. It can trap one in an unconscious cycle of tension release, conditioning us to become more rageful more often, more easily. So it remains a possession and it does not become humanized into anger. So then, can rage be transformed? And into what and how? What's the bridge here? Now, in my mythological explorations and my own attempt to find a bridge. I found several myths, texts, and images. One of those images I'm showing here. Like if you look at this picture on my left, you would see a couple making wild love, and on top of whom Kali is standing. The one who are in throes of passion here are Kamadeva and Rati, the god of desire, and his wife. He's very similar to Cupid or Amor in Greek mythology. And this is just one of the paintings. There are multiple paintings where rage, that in my language we call krodha, in the form of Kali, and desire, which we call kama, is coming together. In some Hindu texts, they speak really about kama krodha, or raging desire. And there are depictions of this which are found as stone carvings in temples, symbolic motifs, and of course mythology, giving us a cue of a bridge, which creates a connection here. So to tell you one such story from the Shiva Purana, Kamadeva, who's a god of desire, as I just mentioned, was sent by the gods to incite desire in god Shiva. Now, Shiva is a god, god of gods, and he had lost his wife Sati and had withdrawn into an icy cold place inside him in meditation, and he was raging from inside. The god, seeing that creation had come to a standstill, maneuvered this intervention. Sati had already taken rebirth and had got reincarnated as Shailaputri, as a daughter of the mountains, and she was waiting for Shiva to open his eyes and see her. So Kama was sent to send a dart of one of his arrows, which would awaken Shiva. He may open his eyes and see Shailaputri and fall in love again. Now Kama sends an arrow, but that eye that opens first is Shiva's third eye. The rage that strikes out like lightning hits Kamadeva, who burns into ashes in an instant. His eyes open after seeing the ever graceful Shailaputri, and warmth arises in him as desire. But by then the destruction is done. And seeing that destruction that's transpired, he reincarnates Kamadeva in human form. Now Kamadeva is born as human son to God Krishna, who's a lover god. Since there has been a strike of rage, it has split Kamadeva into two. It's believed that in human form, they were born as twin brothers named Kama and Krodha, symbolizing the burning of desire, the raging desire. Now, from the land that I keep mentioning, that I come from, Kerala, there's also another myth that the land holds in the form of Kannagi. Now, she's a protagonist in an epic called Silapadikaram. And she symbolizes here the Puella archetype, and a Puella who's burning with unsatiated desire. So Kannagi is a virgin maiden, married to her husband whose name is Kovalan. Unfortunately, Kovalan is in love with a dancer Madhavi and continues to live with her even after his marriage. He keeps coming back to Kannagi for money, and what's left with her is a pair of golden anklets. So she gives one to him to sell in the market. But unfortunately for Kovalan, On the same day, the queen of the land had lost her anklet. Somebody stole it. And in a series of misunderstanding, the king orders the beheading of Kovalan, considering him as a thief. Now Kannagi emerges with this other anklet in her hand to the king's court, burning with rage, and sets the city on fire. She also cuts off her left breast in her grief and leaves behind her a blood trail. Now she walks from the city of Madurai, which is in a state called Tamil Nadu in India, and is believed to have crossed over to Kerala, where she sits under a pala tree in a port town called Kodungalur, transforming herself into goddess Bhadrakali. Now that's the myth, which you would see in a while in the video that I'm going to show. I personally think blood has a way of coursing through and finding its way, shining a light on the darkest recesses of what's dead. But every trail for me seemed to lead me to desire trapped in a traumatized psyche. Now, Carl Schett says that the traumatized psyche lives in a mythical world of terror, which is populated by demonic and godlike figures. They are the archetypal embodiments of survival energy. The work for us is to go in search of this through the mythical bridge that may get offered by the psyche. My psyche was offering me the images in the form of serpents, the wild cats, huge lions, and panthers. And in the midst of weaving these fragments for myself, I also found a lost connection to my father's lineage or my father line, in which my great grandfather was an oracle of the goddess Bhadrakali, known as Velichapada, as they call her, the one who brings light into the darkness. So, in the temples of Kerala, on very special occasions, the goddess emerges through them to bring light to the collective. So, here I'm going to take you through a festival which is called Bharani, which shows how a mythical bridge still exists in a community. If you want to take a minute and open the transcript that I have posted in the group chat, you can do so as I play this video, the video documentation for 22 minutes.
Sunitha, some people entered late, and I'm not sure, but maybe a later person who came could confirm. I'm not sure if they have access to the files. Maybe if it's okay if you post it, both of them one more time.
I could,
Or-
yes, I could
Okay.
post them one more time.
Okay, thank you so much. I
Before.
apologies that I'm not able to do
No,
that, but
no worries, not at all. This is the transcript of the video documentation, and there is a glossary of non-English words for those of you who joined us late. Hope you can download it. It would need a download into your computer. Janine, are you able to see?
Yes. Is there sound?
The sound is just going to come.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Yep, sounds great.
Bharani, the second star in the lunar pantheon, is believed to hold the time or kalam for the dance of Kali, Bhadrakali. Bharani also means the vessel made of earthen clay, symbolizing the void of the womb, holding the darkness inside in a sanctum. As the lunar landscape arrives on this auspicious day, a land by the coast, Kodunallur, an ancient port of entry into the land of Kerala, awaits in preparation for its beloved goddess Bhadrakali, popularly known as Kodunallur Bhagavati. On the day of Bharani, in the lunar month of Kumbham, which is March, a man from the goldsmith caste enters the temple and rings the temple bell. Then ceremonially circumambulates the goddess 3 times, signaling that the temple is now polluted. The act triggers the official start of the Bharani festival. What follows is a preparation of the ground where the sacred meets the profane and the divine comes to meet us in human form. The significance of this ritual lies in the ancient social caste system, where people from lower castes were considered untouchables, hence weren't allowed into the temples. The temple was considered polluted if entered. Kodunallur Bharani, a celebration and a ritualistic retelling of the goddess myth, sets the stage for the diverse caste, communities and tribes to enter into the ritualistic temple space, to celebrate and honor the goddess and to be in union with her in the liminal space. With the red banners that resembles Kali's tongue being hoisted in the banyan trees like flags, the land gets ready to receive the goddess as Bhadrakali in her fierce form, the one who burns with desire. She sits in the sacred grove or carver as Sri Kurumba Bhagavati and is prayed to in this benign form for the rest of the year. As the banners go up, there's a shift in the energy of the land. Numerous myths collide and converge, bringing alive a glimpse of history. She's considered as Kannagi, the virgin maiden, who remains a virgin even after her marriage to Kovalan. She is betrayed by him as he chooses his lover, and in unfairness meets with his death at the hands of the king over an anklet which rightfully belongs to Kannagi. The goldsmith wrongly informs the king that he has found the stolen anklet of the queen, who then proceeds to behead Kovalan without trial. In her rage, Kannagi burns down the city of Madurai, as per the Tamil epic Silappadikara. She cuts off her left breast, throws it in the fire, and walks away burning from the inside. It's believed that the tribals found tended to her wounds by applying turmeric paste, soothed her unmet sexual longing by singing to her, dancing, and nourishing her body with food, thereby cooling the inner fire. She is believed to have left her body, her soul integrating as Bhadrakali. In another myth of the land, she is also Bhadrakali, manifested out of Shiva's third eye, and out of the poison trapped in his throat for the purpose of killing the demon king Daruka, who was misusing his power. In the time of Bharani, she is believed to have gone to battle with Daruka, and the land awaits her return. Korikal Modal, the first ritualistic sacrifice which starts off with the offering of the roosters by the Nair community, considered an upper caste who holds the right to the claim. The members of a house called the Kodungalur Bhagavati Veeder makes the ceremonial sacrifice symbolically, since it's been banned in 1954. We see the vermilion powder and the red silk cloth symbolizing the color of blood being offered in the inner courtyard. As the day proceeds, we see a wave of devotees arriving from all across the land in groups, singing, dancing, and carrying 2 sticks in their hands, making their way towards the temple. Amongst them are the Velichapad, the oracles of light. Predominantly from specific communities, they arrive in groups taking their claim under a particular banyan tree. It is believed that each of the trees in the grove is claimed by specific communities as they gather around to create the temenos. The women oracles are called the Komarams. They are the virgin maidens who prepare their body over periods of fasting and ritual to be the mediums to receive the goddess. Wearing a waist girdle studded with bells called Aramani, anklets in their feet called Chilambar, and the sickle-shaped sword, the Pallival, they dance away in a trance, moving in and out of the possessed state, smeared with vermilion and turmeric, wearing fiery red clothes. She's the bridge, holding a space where she unites with the goddess, transcending this realm. It is believed that the moment she holds a sword, the goddess enters her body. Moaning and shaking, she dances in rage. She sways to the rhythmic beats, sizzling with energy. The Kundalini breaking through her Mooladhara or the root chakra and making its way through the crown or Sahasrara. The Shakti meets an outlet as her crown breaks open, releasing the blood, finding an expression and meeting bliss. is the goddess in human form, becoming an oracle for the people of a community, answering their questions and guiding them with her blessings. She heals her people suffering from physical and mental ailments, creating in her a healing vortex that transforms the field. Amidst the chaos, hidden away from the gaze, people also come in hordes to heal from the possessions of the evil spirits in their bodies. The Velichapada of a specific Theravada or ancestral home holds the power to ritualistically exorcise the beings whose bodies are held captive in terror of possession by the evil spirits called Chatan.
പക്ഷേ ഇപ്പൊ നിൽക്കുന്നത് കാളികളെ തട്ടാത്ത അപ്പൊ ഇവിടെ കാളി മാത്രം മതി. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരൊക്കെ ഇവിടെ ഒതുങ്ങി നിന്നിട്ട് ഒരു മുന്നിലേക്ക് വരാൻ പറ്റുമോ? കാളി ഉപദ്രവിക്കരുത് ശരീരം ഇങ്ങനെ ഇട്ടിട്ട്. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടല്ലേ അത് ഉപദ്രവിക്കട്ടെ തെളിഞ്ഞു പറ്റേ.
As we move through time, communities in a specific social order give their offerings in the form of turmeric, coconuts, coins, and live chickens. The specific place for the offering is a tower, which looks like a gaping mouth of the goddess ready to receive the offerings of the devotees. Chandana Pottu Chartal. The day before the grand festival, the Adigal or the priest of the temple has a specific task of smearing the goddess's body with a herbal paste made out of turmeric and sandalwood that contains specific herbs, symbolically representing the cooling down of her burning body and soothing the woundedness. This ritual happens behind closed doors of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Bharani Patu. The air is filled with people singing in rhythm. Tanaro Tanaro, which roughly translates, to know me, know yourself.
സന്ധ്യാവിളക്ക് തെളിഞ്ഞൊരു നേരത്തു കാളിയെ കാണുവാൻ ഭംഗിയാണ്. അങ്ങനെ അന്തിവിളക്കു തെളിഞ്ഞൊരു നേരത്തു ദേവിയെ കാണുവാൻ ഭംഗിയാണ്. പാട്ടുകേട്ടാനന്ദം കൊള്ളും ഭഗവതി അമ്പലത്തിന്റെ അകത്തു ചെന്ന് അങ്ങനെ പാട്ടുകേട്ടാനന്ദം കൊള്ളും ഭഗവതി അമ്പലത്തിന്റെ അമ്പലത്തിന്റെ അകത്തു ചെന്ന് വീരാളിപ്പട്ട് കുടഞ്ഞുടുത്തു കാലിലൊക്കെ നന്നായി വലിഞ്ഞു കെട്ടി വീരാളിപ്പട്ട് കുടഞ്ഞുടുത്തു കാലിലൊക്കെ നന്നായി വലിഞ്ഞു കെട്ടി തങ്കച്ചിലമ്പുകൾ സാരി മുളയ്ക്കമ്മ അരമണി അറയിലും പൂട്ടി ദേവി അവൾ കെട്ടിയെടുത്തു രമണി കൂറയിൽ കെട്ടിയെടുത്തമ്മ പള്ളിവാള് പല്ലോട് പല്ല് വിറ തുടങ്ങി അമ്മയ്ക്ക് ചുണ്ടോട് ചുണ്ട് വിറ തുടങ്ങി നെറ്റിത്തടവും കവിൽ തടവും നല്ല നിന്നോട് നിന്നു വിറ തുടങ്ങി.
Bharanipata or Theripata is a song of expletives, filled with innuendos and explicit sexual references, dedicated to the goddess they adore. Meant to soothe her burning desire, her unmet longing, this is an act of lyrical offering from her devotees. It satiates the unconsummated virgin maiden, Kannaki. As the dawn breaks, the devotees start the ritual of the day by dipping their bodies in the backwaters of Kodungallur. This is known as Kayal Kuli or bathing in the backwaters, signifying the purification of their bodies as a readiness to receive the goddess. Days before the finale, the lamp that gets lit is called the Revati Vilakku. Revati is the name of the star and Vilakku means the lamp. In mythology, this also signifies the victory in the battle by goddess Bhadrakali over Daruka in the battlefield, and now she is ready to come back home. On the day that she arrives back, which is the final day of the festival, the space gets ready for what's known as Kavu Tindal. Kavu is the sacred grove and Tindal is an act of forced entry. The royal family of Kodungallur arrives with the king sitting in a large chair as a witness. He opens a red umbrella, signaling for the leader of the mob, the Palakil Velan, to lead the way. The crowd breaks out into a frenzy, running around the temple, hitting the walls with sticks, performing the closing ritual. The mob moves in a serpentine motion, symbolically enacting the process of penetrating the goddess's body. It's also seen in parallel as the mob celebrating the victory of the goddess over the demon king Daruka and arriving back into her sanctum. At 3 a.m. on the Bharani day, the priest makes a special offering made with grains into a sweet pudding for the goddess. It is a last offering as she prepares to move into the void of her sanctum, retreating into silence. The doors of the temple are closed and a lamp is lit in the tower, symbolizing that she wants to be left undisturbed in her retreat. She resides in her Garbhagriha, the sanctum in the shape of the womb, integrating her Shakti, finding her containment and taking a form. Mother, mother, flame of night, mother, mother, terror and light. Strike, strike, and the demon falls. Dance, dance, the thunder calls. Red in your eyes, fire in your breath. You are the storm, you are the death. Mother, mother, break our chains. Mother, mother, burn our pains. We cry, we shout, we leap, we roar. Take us, shake us, hold us more. Mother, mother, fury and grace. Mother, mother, endless embrace.
I'm just taking a moment here so that there's a little time and space for all the images and the narrative to just move through. I hope everyone is all right and going back into the space. So what do we really see? We see as a part of the video that just was shown, the archetypal energy that courses through the body of this virgin maiden, bringing in a release of this large energy, what we call as a Kundalini energy, that spurts out as blood, and then the body meets with the containment. Here, we are looking at a religious ritual which culturally symbolizes the goddess. But in case of a human psyche, which traps the rage inside a trauma complex, one can engage with this larger than human energy only symbolically, which would be by looking at the myths, our own dreams, through dance, movement, art, poetry, etc. Because symbol making as a process provides a bridge which connects us between what is external and what is internal. In my particular case, it was slowly freeing my ego out of this possession, allowing space to reclaim this inner eros which was trapped inside. There's always a certain danger in identifying with any complex. In this particular case, with rage itself, because it would essentially look like my rage makes me a warrior to fight the evils of the world. Now that becomes the shortcut to become unconscious of all the aspects of destruction when one doesn't attend to the split itself. What it needs is a conscious relationship. Now, how does a God image gets transformed inside for healing? Because if you saw the video, there was an exorcism ritual, and it happened in a manner that touched the cultural psyche, a very undifferentiated ego collectively. But when one is in their individuation journey, how does one look at this in an individual psyche? For this, I needed to go a little more deeper into the origin story of Kali. How did she originate and how did her rage get contained? Now, there are times in our lives when hell breaks loose. Similarly, in the cosmos, the demons of the underworld, who are called asuras, which means dissonance in English, they broke into the heavens, which were the abode of the suras or the gods, which means, suras means resonant, harmonized, in tune. Now, the gods or the suras had lost their elixir of life, a nectar called Amrit. It had gotten contaminated with their ego inflation. And the underworld had created a buffalo demon king called Mahisha. Bullish with misogyny, hungry for power, and greedy for supremacy. He had established himself as invincible as he got a boon from the creator god of Brahma that he would only meet death in the hands of a woman, which he assumed meant was his immortality. Such was his blindness. In nature, whatever is birthed meets with its death. This is the cycle which one cannot escape, even by the gods. When Mahisha, the buffalo king, was taking over the cosmos, the gods ran to the supreme goddess, surrendering their ego and asking for help. Help, help us save our lives. The trinity of the goddess. We have Lakshmi, who's a god of abundance, action, and foresight. Shakti, who's a goddess of strength and containment, and Saraswati, the three goddesses. Saraswati is a goddess of knowledge and wisdom. They amalgamated together. They came together to form Durga, the protector warrior goddess, the goddess that holds this archetype of warrior. Now, eons of battle followed with the demons, and Mahisha was finally slayed. With his death, Durga encountered the twin demons. The twin demons are called Shumba and Nishumba. Shumba translates in English to self-doubt, and Nishumba translates to the doubting others, representing the I and what's mine that I possess. They also had a warrior army with them, the Shumba and Nishumba, each headed by a warrior king called Chanda. And why these names are important is because a literal English translation reveals to us what we are talking about. So the warrior army head Chanda, it meant the one who only has a head and no body, and Munda, the one who is the body without the head, which is split. Now, encountering these split demons took Durga some strength, and she was losing it as the battle was proceeding. Now, her face started darkening, and from in between her brows, through her third eye, emerged Kali. She emerged with a roar, her sword poised to kill, and her long tongue ready to lick off the blood. Now she goes into a killing spree, and at the end, she's the only one that remains when everything else goes dead. The dark goddess who dissolves the boundary of time, Kala, and form, death. She destroys to create, bringing in the night before the dawn. She dances in that liminal space, in that graveyard of a battlefield, licking blood and making garments out of severed heads, knitting jewelry from the skulls. And then she goes to sit on a bed of serpents. She is pure energy that could hold the dance of time and could overcome death, the sheer terror of it, making one meet it over and over again. Now, as she sits and purviews her land, purviews this graveyard, here comes a story which goes untold, a story that's as old as time itself. I heard this through the oral tradition of Kathakali in Kerala. It's an art form which literally translates to narration of a story in a play format. Now, in the story, Kali gets possessed with a dark bloodlust. She's called in to put an end to another demon called Daruka, who's destroying Mother Nature. Daruka means forest, and he and his demon army creates disharmony, killing the wild beings. The forest starts flooding with demonic spirits who are part of his army. Now, in slaying him, she encounters more and more of the same Daruka, because from each drop of his blood spilled arises more Daruka. Now, what she does here is she starts licking up the blood and she starts dancing in bloodlust. The destruction starts and it becomes uncontained as she's high. She starts dancing with sheer pleasure, tasting death over the dead bodies and the fragmented parts. Her blood starts contaminating, having absorbed now immense darkness. By now, the blood which has been absorbed has rushed to her head, closing her third eye, and she is in a death dance. Abject terror descends as Prakriti or nature is under threat of the same energy that protected it. Bhadra is possessed, reaching a point of being caught in an unending cycle. Her senses have shut down. For respite, all the beings and gods run to the god of gods or god Shiva, the one with pure consciousness. Now Shiva is in Israel, very unaware of this dance, and he needed to be aroused out of slumber. Now at this point, the story meets with a trident fork. There are these known versions which involve Shiva descending, becoming the father, and allowing Kali to dance on top of him. The other version involves him becoming an infant and suckling Kali's breasts, evoking the mother in her to settle her energy. Now, those folks of the story are for another day, the meeting of the father and the mother. In our story today, what Shiva does is he towers down to view the scene below. And in response to the energy field, he takes on the form of the ultimate God or Parameshwara, what we can call as a king. He stands in front of her and orders Bhadrakali to stop. He says, "Stop this dance, I command you. If you don't, I would be forced to make you stop," he says. With a mere sound of a hum, fire rains down on God Shiva and he is reduced to ashes, much to the shock of all the gods and beings. The destroyer god, as he is called, as he is known, becomes ashes. She smears those ashes over her body and she continues her dance. Now, Shiva is the god of gods, so he rises up from the ashes like a phoenix. He's consumed by defeat and failure, and he takes the form of a warrior called as Veera and gets ready to fight her in the battle. He challenges her by telling her, "Let's see who wins." Bhadra now becomes black in her rage. Roaring and laughing, she strikes her sword with fury and beheads Veera the warrior. She takes the severed head in her hands, holds it, and in a way, joining in with him or his head, which gave him this name Veera Bhadra. Bhadra joining with the Veera. Now, with his head severed and lost in battle, of course, he needs to have a few more tricks in his bag. He decides he's going to change his form with magic. Now he becomes what is called a Kapalika or the magician mystic. He comes in bearing the magic water to disperse her disillusionment, to break her from the spell. The black magician sprays the water on her. The fire that she's radiating as she's burning evaporates this water before it touches her body. Her burning rage makes her untouchable at this point. Now Shiva is in dire distress. He imagined his radiance to have strength and his form to hold and contain her. Little did he know that she had gone beyond time and form. With the dance becoming tricky, he withdrew. He withdraws. He withdraws into himself in vimarsha or self-reflection. The varied forms that he had taken of the king, of the warrior, of the magician, it starts amalgamating inside him in alchemy. It comes through him and it goes out of him. And then there's a desire that starts surging in him, something that transcends time. He leaves his form and steps into the earth, into the nature or prakriti to experience the humanness. All his three eyes shakes open as he looks at her. and she is a vision. Her dark blue skin is glowing. She's naked, except a skirt of severed hands. Her breasts are full and firm enough to burst. Her wild locks are flowing down her back. Her eyes holds the madness and is luminously beautiful. And her tongue is red and dripping blood. Eros surged through him, and he is dissipating. He looks at her and surrenders, lying down on the ground of his nature. In that moment, her third eye opens. She sees his desire as his erect phallus completely swollen and takes a pause. The pause in time and beyond. Death just stills, creating a still point in the dance. Her arms, which were in the midst of a swinging motion with the sword, cuts off the head, and as blood gushes through her body, she collapses on top of him. Passion meeting desire in a bloodied way, making love. In the union of the love flowing, the Shiva consciousness gets transformed into Krishna consciousness. Krishna is the lover god, and they join together in sacred connuntio, taking the form of Krishna Kali, creating love. Who is Krishna Kali? Now, Kali, in her Prakriti or nature, is met by her inner other. Her inner other, the animus, the masculine, the spirit, the Purusha. He willingly meets her in her dance, in the dead of the night. She becomes Shama or the dark one, for her Sham, the dark god. The dark goddess Kali meets the dark human god Krishna, allowing her instinctual consciousness to emerge in love and desire. She doesn't need taming. She needed to be met in her wholesome wildness, in completion, by her own animus, the masculine, integrating as Shama's Sham or Krishna Kali. Both of these beings, as per the text, belong in the liminal. Dancing is their way of being, dark complexioned and mysterious. Krishna incites sexual passion, whereas Kali incites aggression. There's a certain wildness and abandon in their dance of passion. The famous Indian poet Ramaprasad writes, Krishna wearing a garland of wild flowers, with a flute in hand, becomes Kali with a sword. Now, where does this take us now? The myth, the journey, as an individual and as a collective. As per the ancient Indian texts, the concept of time is divided into 4 chapters, which we call as yugas, and we, living in the present, we are in the 4th chapter, which is called as Kali Yuga. It's written as a time when the spirit or the masculine is in possession of matter and loses consciousness, trading blind in this journey. And as a collective, if you look at ourselves, we are either possessed or are behind possessions, totally consumed. At a time like this, I don't think it's random that this time in the text is being called the Kali Yuga. Kali, the bearer of time and death, the holder of rage, maybe is calling out to us, both within and without. When we are in the grips of a collective narrative that confines the feminine into the roles of being the nourisher, the mother, and confines the man to be the protector, the provider, which becomes his sword, that's when we meet Kali. How is it for all of us today to meet the feminine with the sword and the masculine holding the float? What are we confronting that hides behind this denigrated rage? For me personally, it has been a journey of unfolding this huge potential hiding inside the rage, the passion, the creatrix. Yes, we definitely may need to meet those parts in us which are creating strict, rigid orders that pedestalizes power, that makes success into the greed for possessions. But love keeps knocking on the doors of our soul, gently knocking, transcending and bridging, creating a possibility of a deep renewal. Sometimes paradoxes are good, as it holds in it the seeds of a whole. When we reach within us for the split parts hiding in shame, may there be music that you hear, waiting to gently nudge you and say, "Come, let's dance." Thank you.
Thank you, Sunitha. Thank you so much. Appreciate you very much. So we have about 15 or 20 minutes for questions and answers, but did you want to pause, or are we good to jump right into that?
No, I am really good to jump right in, but I really want to thank all of you for holding the space for the sacredness to emerge. And yeah, any thoughts, anything that emerged, please do feel free to share. I would very much like to hear. Hi, Christine.
Yes, hi Sunitha. That was so moving. Thank you. I was wondering if you could say any more about blood. I'm just interested in kind of the ancient perception and practices with blood, blood drinking in the Dionysian ritual in early Roman times. And I think you mentioned that Kali was born, something about blood being a foundational aspect of her. Yeah, so.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Christine. I think I also mentioned that, blood leaves a trail, something that flows, something which is full of life. And I feel that even a birthing when a baby comes and comes out, there's blood. In this particular ritual that you saw, blood becomes the release of this particular energy that is coursing through the body, the Kundalini. And very symbolically in India, we also wear a red, what we call as a kumkum, as women who are married as symbolic of being together with the masculine. Yeah. And also, I think red is rubedo in alchemy. It also symbolizes love. In some way, red is everywhere. So yeah, for me, it is something which is very alive.
Yeah.
Does that answer your curiosity?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Penelope.
Ah,
Hi, Penelope.
hello. You did it. You transmitted the mythology and you did it with such grace and very, very carefully and slowly taught us through the mythology and a little bit of your story. It was really the perfect medicine for me, and I think it's the medicine for our times. I was thinking how precious to go through those embodied community festivals, especially from childhood. I wanted to go there. And it's all very familiar for me. So it was wonderful to have you both talk about trauma, but also the Indian mythology, the language, etc. But masterful work. Thank you so much for coming and for holding English in India. And at one point I had this thought how useless football games are for us. In the sense that, they're one of those big collective rituals that's so weak in the face of the mythology you presented today and the festivals. I go away informed and celebrating, dancing, both in rage and in love for what you're doing. And, I feel a sisterhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Penelope. And please do make a visit. Please do come to witness.
Thank you.
The invite is open. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Denise.
Hi.
Hi, Denise.
Thank you very much. You, toward the end, you referred to the Kali Yuga. And I've heard of this as being the time of the Kali Yuga, but it never occurred to me that that actually meant the time of Kali, which is the most obvious, I guess, meaning of it. But I was wondering if you could expound on that just a little bit about what does that mean that we are in the time of the Kali Yuga?
So what is described in the Indian Vedic texts and the very ancient creation myth is that we had 4 engines and 3 engines are out, and we are just going ahead with 1 engine, if I can put it in that very modern way, which essentially means that this particular yuga, we experience a certain heartlessness, a certain numbing of feelings. Like they say, the dog eats dog. Is that what they say? Kind of a world. A time where the dead matter becomes more important to humans, and the serving of the dead matter becomes more important than serving each other or the sacred. And also because it is the fourth and the final chapter as it's written in the text, it also speaks about the destruction of the times. So it's also interesting, 4 is a number of the whole. So maybe I feel that there is a particular learning for us to look at what can be created out of what's being destroyed. And for me, maybe it was named as Kali Yuga because Kali is symbolic of that. What that she stands when everything else is dead. So that's how I looked at it, to bring this alive. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dennis.
Next, we have Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi. I've been retired for some time, but in my prior practice, I dealt with a lot of people who were survivors of satanic ritual abuse. And this presentation makes me, I've struggled my whole life in some ways to deal with the experiences that these people went through. And in some ways, my own personal experience in dealing with people and dealing with a deep relationship with somebody who was deeply involved with satanic ritual abuse. And somehow these mythological or archetypal processes that you talk about seem to me very similar to what a lot of these people have experienced in some way. I mean, that the horrible things that they did with children, the blood and the sexuality and the perversion of eros. So that to me, it gives me another way of looking at what these people experienced.
Yeah, no, that is a very interesting, way of, and what it evoked in you. Thank you for sharing that. That's very precious, coming from a Western way of looking at it, because in Indian, in our culture, there isn't a concept of Satan.
There what?
There isn't a concept of Satan. Yeah.
But the process of satanic is symbolized in a lot of what you were just talking about.
But yes, but we so when it is a tantric ritual, so the frame that these rituals happen is set in a way where the gods of the world above and the gods of the world under, both are gods. So there is not really a very clear, distinct binary that gets separated into this is God and this is Satan. And the stories that keeps getting passed on and which, keeps it alive. It's like we have our shadow. And
but there's a way of combining, of coming together. Whereas when you've got the binary separation, how do we get to, how do the devil, the good and the bad get together, or the embodiment of good and bad get together? And that's what these rituals and all this stuff that you talk about try to do.
Yes.
But we haven't been able, in Western culture, we haven't been able really to do that, I don't think.
And I do feel that somewhere maybe the body goes missing, because a lot of the rituals that have been ancient, and I'm not saying it is even followed by us today, even in India. A lot of rituals have become disembodied, and I feel sometimes the body is the bridge that can hold both together. So that's my way of looking at it in my experience.
Is there a ritual that how do you do that? I mean, that's what these rituals are trying to do, isn't it, in some ways?
It is. But this also is a very fading ritual. It's not as alive in our consciousness, even in India. When people see it, they're still they're able to relate, but they are still foreign to it. So we have started walking far away from what could be if we are able to embody sacredness in some way. And I think for me, documenting this was important because it is also a form of remembering, and my body remembering. So, yeah. Does that speak to you, Robert?
Well, it raises the question of what are we, collectively, individually. I think that the idea is really to get in touch with our deeper self, and how do we do that as an individual? And we have our own, through individual therapy, through individual experience, through the perspective that Jung has given us. There is that for us as individuals, we experience somehow that connection with the self that is transformative. How does it happen in a collective kind of way? Because the church doesn't do it anymore. Organized religion doesn't do it anymore. So on a collective basis, there's something missing. The ceremonies that you presented in some ways did something for these people to bring the shadow side together for these people. But how in our Western culture, religion doesn't do it anymore in some way.
And I agree. I do. Yes, it doesn't. It's lost its backbone in some way. Yeah.
Or the symbolism that doesn't work anymore. Unless I'm fascinated by the things I read, look at on YouTube about esoteric Christianity that makes what Christ says so much more valid if you look at it in a symbolic way, rather than the way the church, Christianity has looked at it as a concrete kind of way and magical thinking kind of way. And it's different now, I think, through Jung and Jung's ideas.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think, that was something for us to dwell on. And take it further. Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for coming and sharing. Do we have more questions, Jack?
We do.
Jack Rose?
Hello. Thank you so much for your presentation. I have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to try to edit and just kind of get to the core of what I'd like to ask.
Can I see you, Jack? I can't see you.
Yes.
Unless she turns her camera on, or they turn the camera on, I can't spotlight them. Sorry. So.
Sorry. I'm in a vehicle in my camera that faces me. I'm on my phone. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I really deeply appreciate your presentation. And I, in 1998, I was sort of first introduced in my early college years to Kali, and I wanted to shape my entire academic and professional career around studying Kali. And I didn't end up taking the path of anthropology that I was on at the time, and I didn't, and after seeing this presentation, there's a lot of things that make sense now, in just terms of my own life and experience and kind of that draw. So that was deeply meaningful. And my question to you is, I noticed in the video of the ritual that there were a lot of, I don't know if it was priests or performers. There were men dressed as
Women.
Kali, yeah. And so I'm curious as to, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to rage, just, I mean, there men are raped, men are trafficked as well, men are abused as well. They are, women can also be abusers. Women can also be rapists. And excuse me for the trigger warning for saying these things. So, looking at the difference of gendered trauma and gendered expression and gendered representation in terms of Kali, and how, particularly the Bhadra Kali, holds these, performative visuals and internal dynamics, it seems that she's able to move away from bioessentialism in a sense. And, speaking from kind of a non-binary perspective as well, yet having experienced trauma in a a female embodiment in youth. I'm very, very interested in your perspective about this. And then kind of piggybacking that a little bit on the end, I'm initially my studies were going to be the Kali cult in Calcutta. And so I'm interested, if you have time, kind of looking at the just briefly, if you're able to, the difference between different regional experiences of Kali. And yes, I have so many questions. I'll just leave it at that. I thank you so much. I really appreciate.
Yeah, maybe you can write to me, Jack. Then we can connect. So to answer your first query about gender, I totally agree. I don't think it is gender specific trauma, definitely not. And here, the calling and the ritual that you saw, the calling is to embody her, or there isn't a choice, and she comes through someone's body. So the honoring her in this ritual is why, or honoring Kannagi as a character, is why you see the men dressed as her, in that binary way. But I also feel that sometimes it's not really about gender specifically. Maybe a better way to look at it is as the inner other. It could be the inner masculine or your inner feminine, and all of us have both, or and then to look at it from an energetic perspective. When we look at trauma, that has helped me in my own practice to look at it as a inner other. And then coming back to the difference between how Kali is worshipped in the east of India, in Calcutta, in West Bengal, and in Kerala, I think there is a difference which I know of is in the way she's worshipped follows more of a tantric frame in Kerala, where all the goddesses are Bhadrakali. You know, all the goddesses that are worshipped um, are Bhadrakali, and hence that is one difference. In Calcutta, it is Ma Kali, where she's looked at as a mother. Essentially, in Kerala, that needn't be the case because or this is what I know of. She takes in multiple forms, and there are multiple stories and myths that describe her differently. And we also in Kerala, we have a matrilineal lineage where the lineage is taken forward by the daughter and not by the son. So there is a large community of matrilineality in this part where I come from. So I belong to a matrilineal family as well. So that is one of the differences. I hope I've answered your curiosity, Jack, and maybe we can connect on mail and take it forward. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. And can I don't know if we have time, and I forgot my other part of the questions in terms of those of us who haven't grown up in the context where this is kind of in our lineage or whatnot. Is it possible to engage with Vajrakali in a way that, doesn't involve cultural appropriation, and how we can tap into this dynamic being and learn and embody her?
Since we're just about at time and there are some other questions, I encourage you to contact Sivamani.
I will write to you.
Thank you.
Jack, if you can leave your email on the chat.
We have time for maybe sorry. We have time for maybe one brief question from Judith. And Wizard Boo, I'm sorry, we're probably not gonna be able to get to you.
I'm sorry.
I wanted just to underscore what Penelope said. Extraordinary, and I feel privileged to be brought into what you brought us. I feel extraordinary privilege because otherwise I never would have. I also physically experienced through film and sound and music that extraordinary ritual. So that's a small way of saying how it really moved me to tears, to feelings in my body. I want to, three things came out, and then I have a question, and it's quick, Chris to Chris. You mentioned Puella, the burning of unsatisfied desire, and then, excuse me?
Unsatiated desire. Yes.
Yeah. And then desire trapped in a traumatic psyche. Okay. And then I'm moving quickly. Kalshed asks, or I'm curious what you meant by Kalshed says to go in search of the mythical world of terror. And is that our shadow? Is that what we are most afraid of facing? And those mythical tigers and beasts and snakes and whatever, dark. Oh, yeah. Those are the facing into terror.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. I think you really touched my heart because my work with rage led me to terror, which was the there's a part 2 and part 3 to this Kali, because I think it's very incomplete without terror. And I think it's just on the other side of in a traumatized psyche. Sometimes rage can hold it all together externally, but what lives inside can be a huge world of terror, at least in my experience. So, and I deeply resonate with Carl Schett, and he's asking us to seek a mythical bridge because we can't touch either rage or terror, and according to me, even disgust, without it being symbolic.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the other piece, oh, there's so much, but thank you. And then the other piece was what you reminded me of at the very end of the myth, where there's the union, and you said she doesn't need defeating; she needed to be met. And I was reminded of the marriage of Gawain, and what he finds out. I'm not going to go into it all now, but he finds out at the end is, what do women want? That's his quest for years. He's on a quest. What do women want? And it's sovereignty to be met. And similarly, they want sovereignty. And what I was brought to in the end of that story was also the rage that's there when the feminine is not met, or when Kali is not met. I mean, that can be enraging, and when she's not given her sovereignty, I mean, that's enraging. Yeah.
It is.
We need to wrap up, but thank you so much, Judith, for your question, and absolutely tremendous thanks to Sunitha. And I think Christine has a parting closing word, if I'm not mistaken. And you're muted, Christine.
Just want to say on behalf of the board and everyone present here today, I hope you can feel our gratitude to your very special presentation, and as Judy said, to bringing us into a cultural experience that we would not have had contact with. It was powerful and moving and will stay with me. So,
thank you. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Christine. Thanks to Peter, Janine. Thanks to all of you for hosting me and for providing me with whatever I needed. Thank you. It was a pleasure.